Hey there, it's Leslie at Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and I had the honor of making Scooby Doo cookies for my sister-in-law's birthday. Let me show you how I did it. So I started by going on the internet and looking for some Scooby Doo clip art. I copy and pasted that into a Word document and then sized it for the right shape for my cookie. And then I printed that out and I put it inside of a sheet protector that has been washed. And so I'm going to be making all of the characters as royal icing transfers, and then I will put them on my cookie and glue them down with some royal icing. And all of the icing that I'm using here is going to be about a 20 to 25 second consistency. So I am going to have to work with it a bit to get it to settle down, but that is what works best I've found for royal icing transfers. And because my icing is a little bit stiffer, I'm able to use a very slightly dampened paintbrush to help shape the eye. And I'm going to go ahead and outline the rest of Scooby Doo with black royal icing, and then I will be going over some of the areas again twice to create a bigger wall in between sections. I'm going to go slowly and just pipe right onto the plastic sheet protector, following the design that I printed out. And I really should have probably started with the outline rather than starting with the mouth and the eye. That was something I definitely did going forward with the rest of the transfers I made of Scooby Doo. And again, I'm going to use a slightly dampened paintbrush to help shape the mouth. And then continue to outline Scooby Doo. One of the great things about using royal icing transfers is you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to try to draw Scooby Doo onto your cookie. All you have to do is trace over him on the transfer sheet. And then I'm going to go over some lines with the black icing twice because I want to create a higher wall that will help keep the brown icing separate. And then I actually decided to go over some of the lines of his ears and by his eyes again as well to create a higher wall with the black icing. And now I'm going to go ahead and pipe in the other eye. Because this icing is stiffer, it dries really fast and I'm able to keep piping without having to stop and wait for things to dry. And then I'm going to carefully flood in the area around his mouth, and I'm going to have to stop and settle this icing down quite frequently because it's stiffer and it dries pretty fast. And then I'm going to use my paintbrush to kind of just wipe some of that brown icing away from where it went over the black line. And then I'll put my brown icing right back into where I left off and continue to flood in Scooby Doo. And stopping to use my scribe to settle the icing down before I get too far. And then putting my icing bag right back into the brown again and continuing on. Another great thing about making royal icing transfers is that they don't tend to crater. So this cookie has a lot of small little areas. His eyes are small. His ears are small, and those areas all tend to form craters in royal icing as they dry. And for some reason that does not happen when you make royal icing transfers. One thing to watch out for though with royal icing transfers is sometimes they will tend to break when you pick them up off of the transfer sheet and put them on your cookie, so you're going to want to make a few extras just to be safe. I'm going to have to be especially careful with Scooby's ears when I move the transfer onto the cookie so that those don't break. So I'm just going to finish flooding Scooby Doo's face and his ear, and then I will go ahead and pipe in his big nose. And then once that's done, all that's left to do is the collar. So I'm going to outline and flood in the collar, and then once everything is finished, I'm going to put Scooby Doo aside and let him dry completely, at least 8 to 12 hours. Okay, so I've let my Scooby Doo transfers dry completely, and now I've got it under a projector so I can line up where the eyeballs go. And I'm using an edible marker just to color in those eyes. And then I'll add in some eyebrows and give him a couple of little freckles or spots on his snout. And then Scooby Doo is ready to be removed from the transfer sheet. And to do that, I'm going to use a scraper and just carefully lift him off, being careful not to break the ears. And I will just continue to carefully remove all of the Scooby Doos from my royal icing transfer sheet. So let's put them onto the cookies that I have previously flooded and prepared. So I'm just going to put some royal icing on the back of Scooby. I'm going to go pretty close to the edge, even though it's probably going to squish out when I put it on the cookie. And then I'm just going to gently press him down with some even pressure. Everywhere where royal icing came out, I'm going to use a paintbrush and just wipe it away. So let's do that again. I'm going to put royal icing on the back of my Scooby Doo transfer, and then I'm going to gently push it down onto the cookie. On one of the transfers, when I was pushing it down onto the cookie, one of the ears did break, but I was able to push it together and nobody would have ever known. Now another thing that you want to look for is any icing that has squeezed out, but you also want to look for any gaps between the cookie and the transfer, and then take your icing and just kind of fill those in, because those are areas that might break if you are going to package your cookies and send them anywhere. I think they came out pretty great. What do you think? Would you try making Scooby Doo cookies this way? Let me know in the comments. I'll be putting tutorials out for the rest of the gang soon, so be sure to like and subscribe.
Scooby Dooby Doo!